Thanks for being with me today. Considering the fact that there is so much quarreling and fighting going on in the average home between husbands and wives, between parents and kids, and between kids and kids, there is no shortage of quarreling and fighting in the average home. And so with that in mind, we're very, very fortunate to have the scriptures talk about this matter of quarreling and fighting to such an abundance that it does. We're very blessed to be able to turn to the scriptures and find out what they say, because they have a lot to say about this matter of quarreling and fighting. And that's what we're going to continue to do in these series of videos about quarreling and fighting. In this video and the next couple of other videos, we're going to be looking in the epistle of James, where James identifies for us 3 reasons why we quarrel and fight. And today we're going to look at one of those reasons. If you've got your Bible, I'd invite you to turn to James chapter 4, verse 1 and 2, where it says reason number 1 why we quarrel and fight. Let's look at this. James chapter 4, verse 1 and 2 says this. What causes fights and quarrels among you? He's asking the question. Where do they come from? What causes these things? Don't they come from your desires that battle within you? You want something and you don't get it. You kill and covet, but you cannot have what you want. You quarrel and you fight. Did you see what James says? What causes quarrels and fights? What he says is quarreling and fighting is caused by strong evil desires. He says it in 3 different ways. Number 1, what causes quarrels and fights among you? Don't they come from your desires that battle within you? That word desire means pleasure. It means having a very, very, very strong wanting of some sort of a pleasure. And it goes on to say that you're not getting that very strong desire for a certain pleasure. You're pleasuring for something very strongly, but you're not getting it. But the cause of that quarreling and fighting goes back to that very strong desire for some form of a pleasure. He says secondarily here that secondly, that you want something, but you don't get it. There's another word. Want means desire. In this case, the word for desire is the Greek word for epithumia. Some of you might be familiar with that, but it means just having a very, very strong passion and desire and craving for something. A good translation would be craving. So in the first place, you have the very, very strong desire for some pleasure. Number 2, he says, another reason why you quarrel and fight is you want something. You crave something very, very badly and you're not getting it. And then thirdly, he says, you want something but you don't get it. You kill and covet. The Greek word coveting is really a word about a feeling. It can be, you can translate this word coveting in terms of the feeling of burning inside of you, or actually even boiling. It's used in another verse about boiling over with jealousy. What causes quarrels and fights among you? These desires that are inside of you that are growing and burning and bubbling and boiling, and they eventually break out in the form of quarreling and fighting. Now, James is doing something very, very helpful for us. What he's telling us to do is, if you're looking for a reason or for quarreling and fighting, you don't have to go any farther than yourself and what's going on inside of you. Or in other words, it's not your circumstances or your wife or your husband or the dog or the kids that cause you to quarrel and fight. If you were to say it was them, you would be blame shifting. James is being very clear here, telling us that one of the 3 reasons why you quarrel and fight is because of what's going on inside of you in terms of these feelings, these strong cravings, these strong lusts, these strong desires that you have, that you want something very, very badly. You desire something very, very badly. And because you're not getting it, what's coming out of you, what's boiling out of you, is this quarreling and fighting with, of course, another person. Here's another way of looking at this. If I could give everyone who's listening to me right now a pill that would take away those cravings and lust and strong desires, and that burning and bubbling in you, those desires. If I could give you a pill that would take those away, you would never quarrel and fight. You probably would never quarrel and fight again. There are two other reasons why James is going to give to us for quarreling and fighting, but the one here is these desires and feelings. That where do they battle? They're not battling outside of you, but actually they're battling within you. And that's why James is saying that if you want to stop quarreling and fighting, you're going to have to learn how to deal with what's going on inside of you, and not so much on what's going on outside of you. I would hope as a result of looking at this together today that you would be willing to say now, well, okay, I understand that the cause of my quarreling and fighting is not external to me. I might have hard external circumstances or relationships, but the reason I quarrel and fight is because of what's going on inside of me. I have these strong feelings and desires and passions, and that's where I need to direct my attention, is those things. And I'm going to need to learn to turn to God. Those aren't going to go away, but I do need to learn how to recognize them quickly in their early stages so that I can turn to God and get help to keep those things on a very, very short leash so that it does not, in the fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth inning, come bubbling, boiling out of me in the form of quarreling and fighting and arguing. Actually, that really is what defines a godly man. A godly man isn't one who doesn't have these passions and desires and cravings, but he is a man or a woman who has learned to recognize them early in the first and second and third inning. They go to God to get help to keep those desires and feelings and cravings on a very short leash. And guess what? As he draws near to God and God draws near to him, God helps those desires and cravings to stay on a leash and in such a way that they don't burst forward with quarreling and fighting and arguing. Wouldn't it be great? That's fantastic what God enables us to do. But he will not enable you to do it if you're thinking the problem, the cause of the quarreling and fighting is external to you, because it's not. If you see it now for the first time and clearly that those quarreling and fighting originates with these strong feelings, then now you can learn to recognize them quickly, go to God to get the grace and mercy that you need, and he'll help you to keep them from reaching the ninth inning when they break out in an argument and a quarrel and a fight with somebody else. I hope that's helpful to you. That's what you really need to start to concentrate on now, is what's going on inside of you regarding these feelings, and you need to recognize them quickly, turn to God quickly and deeply, and he will help you with those things to prevent them, those desires, from breaking out into arguments and quarreling and fighting. That would be wonderful. That would be very, very good for you to know these things and to practice these things even right away. Next video, we'll look at the second reason that James identifies for us as to why we quarrel and fight. I'll see you then.